Welcome. Today, I will be answering your questions that I've collected from my support group. The questions that we will cover today will be, anything related to awakening on the spiritual journey. They could be related to self-inquiry practice. They could be about surrender, non-doership. They can be even about how to integrate spiritual teachings into day-to-day personal life. We're going to cover many different types. We're going to try to make this a weekly segment. Every week, I will be collecting questions from you and I will be answering it on these videos. So I think it's going to bring a lot more clarity to your understanding, and I'm excited. So let's begin. So let me just pull up our questions here. By the way, I will be collecting your questions from within the support group. If you haven't joined yet and you would like to participate in this, you can use the link in the description box below after this video to join. But every week, I'll be making a post like this, and then you can comment your questions here. So you'll see we have plenty of questions to get to today. Let's see what arises. So I did tell everybody to please pose your question in two clear, concise sentences. Let's see who followed the rule and who didn't. So, first question by Ashmit. Ashmit said, people who suffer from anxiety related disorders like GAD, OCD, etc., should they also follow the same path or do they need to approach things differently? Because as someone who suffers from anxiety, I think whatever my doctors told me and other people who talk about anxiety, they always point to something. And when I try to figure out what it is, it turns out that they ultimately point to awareness. And you also point to awareness. Yeah. So Ashmit, understand that it doesn't matter who you are, what walk of life you are from, or what affliction you are suffering from, whether it be mental, physical, personal, relationship, right? It could be anything. If this teaching has found you, then it is very relevant for you. We are all truly blessed that this teaching has come into our lives. And so if it has come into your experience, do not question your readiness. Do not worry about like, oh wait, hey, I want to practice this, but I'm suffering through this. Is this right for me? If you feel a sense of resonance and truthfulness in the teaching, then pursue it and practice to the best of your ability. That's the way to go. So next question is by Mahi. Mahi said, how to deal with intrusive and scary thoughts. Also, how to balance achievement and keep ego at bay. So, Mahi, there's many things to do with scary and intrusive thoughts. First and foremost, you have to have a consistent meditation practice because as long as you are consistent with your meditation practice and you're doing your best day in and day out in your practice, then gradually the amount of scary thoughts you have, negative thoughts, and the capacity, right? The power that they have to pull you into their projections, it will naturally start to diminish. That has been my experience and the experience of everybody that I've worked with. So I will say to you, first and foremost, the main thing you need is to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice. Here, I share with you many resources on how to build a meditation practice. Even inside of the group, we have a mini course, so definitely go through that. But you have to start there. But we don't just stop there. We also take it one step further. When you're on the path of self inquiry, don't just take these scary thoughts at face value. Don't just run away from them or try to avoid them or try to get rid of them. Use them to investigate your experience. What is scared? Who is the thought scaring? For whom is there such an attachment to something that must not happen or must happen? Do you see, like, because we are caught up in all of these misunderstandings and confusions, because we are not investigating our experience, we are having such type of thoughts. Once you begin to practice meditation consistently and start to investigate these things, a lot will be revealed to you about the nature of your true self and the nature of your egoic self, or call it the illusory self, on behalf of whom there are so many fears. You see, when we start to investigate what is scared, what is it that is scared of these thoughts or the potential outcome scenario that may happen, you start to see that like thought is all centered around personal identity, the person I believe myself to be. And from there, I'm thinking about my future, my past, things that must happen, things that must not happen. And because there's such a deep attachment to those things, there's such even a deep investment in the sense, in the belief that I am a person, that I am this body mind. From that, all fears arise. So once you start to discover that, and again, through your meditation practice, you will naturally begin to discover that, then you start to become free. You start to become free from the pull of these thoughts because you start to see through the illusory nature of the identity they wish to protect. You start becoming more and more open, more and more willing to experience any experience. And when you are just open to the unknown in this way, and you really start to live that way, then what idea can possibly scare you? You see, and then when thoughts will even arise for you, you will just see them. And even if it's like a scary concept, first of all, you just won't invest so much reality into it because you will see through the conceptual nature of thought. But even if it is, let's say, something that still sort of hooks into you, you'll just be like, you'll just have a willingness to, hey, if this is what comes into my experience in the future, then so be it. I will experience that too. And then gradually, as those experiences come and go, the very experiences that you were so scared of, they come and go. And when they come, they naturally get taken care of. Life gives you the strength to and intelligence and creativity to take care of them. And then they pass. Then you start to grow in understanding. You're like, there's nothing to be afraid of. Whatever is meant for me is finding its way to me. And whenever it is here, it's being dealt with through an intelligence much greater than me. And then it goes. This is the beginning of living life without fear. So, again, there's a lot more we can say on that, but we'll leave it here for now. And your other question about how to balance achievement and keep ego at bay, just from personal experience, I will just share with you. This is the way that I do my work. When I began this journey of making content on YouTube and, doing my program and all that, part of it was coming from a place where I wanted to achieve a lot, and I wanted a lot of things for myself. But as I've continued to mature in my meditation practice, this is the advice I will give to you. Do your work, not for some reward or benefit. They will come anyway, but do your work for the sake of the work itself, for the sake of enjoyment, for the sake of bringing value to those who your work will benefit. That is the way to a fulfilling life. That is the way to do your best work. And that is the way you just naturally bring about the best possible outcomes in the long term without attachment to anything. So, this is also the method prescribed by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, do your work, but don't be attached to the fruits of your labor. This was some crazy advice when I first encountered it, but the more I practice it, the more I see that it is the only practical way to go about life. So, in that way, you'll see that the ego will continue to diminish because the ego only survives and thrives through attachment to outcome, through desiring, fearing, resisting, wanting. So, this work is the opposite of that. And it diminishes the ego, makes it more and more transparent. You start to discover what you are, but beyond the ego, transcendent of the ego. All fancy words, but it's quite practical when you start to live the teaching. Okay. And I'm loving seeing everybody responding to each other, helping each other out. Ultimately, that's why I created this community. So I'm really happy that everybody is here together and helping each other out. Thank you all for that. I'm excited for these Q&As and doing them every week. So, next question is by Thomas. Thomas, you said, does anyone else find this work to be anxiety provoking? It's like the mind wants to hold on to itself because that's all it's known. I want to let go and be free, but the mind screams against it. It can surely seem, especially when you begin this practice, that initially your mind becomes even louder, even more excruciating, unbearable. It's almost like it detects that silence is not going to be good for it. So it becomes louder in that way. Don't be afraid. Understand one thing, Thomas and everybody else. No matter what the mind says, no matter how loud it screams, start to acknowledge that you are aware of it. The awareness of the mind is not screaming, it is not even talking, it is not wanting anything, it's not even trying to get rid of it. It's simply aware. Awareness is like that ground of pure acceptance, pure allowance, in which any and all experiences appear. The screaming mind is just another experience. Start to get to know that awareness which is prior to the screaming mind. The screaming mind is like a screaming child. The child screams, but the mother just watches the child in calm. Now start to be the mother that watches the mind without being so attached, without identifying yourself with it. Get to know yourself, what you are prior to the mind that is arising and passing. Who are you that sees? Who are you that remains after the mind subsides? It screams and then it's silent, and then for maybe a moment there's silence, no thought, and then a lot of thought. Who are you? What are you? From where do you see all this? Are you not already and always prior to the mind? Once you start to take what I've said to heart and really start to experience that and play around with it in your experience, it has to be experimented over a period of time. Once you start to do that, then the mind will lose its capacity to pull you into its projections. Like I said to Mahi in the previous question, these projections of mind will become weaker. Your belief in them and identification with them will grow, will just dissipate. So it does not matter if initially a lot of anxiety is arising. So what? All thoughts point to you as the knower of them. You don't think. You simply are. Become aware of your being here and now. Become aware of that which sees thought, which sees thought come and go, while itself it does not come and go. That's the essence of this practice of self inquiry meditation. That's what our entire group is about. That's what we all make these videos on. Okay. Next question is by Jennifer. Jennifer said, why is it so difficult to stay centered and detached from personhood during volatile moments and experiences? I'm having trouble transferring this ability from my meditation practice into everyday life. Well, firstly, Jennifer, I'm very happy that you're at least starting to master this in your meditation practice. And that is the first step. That is how it was for me also. Like all of these things that I've come to embody in my day-to-day life and the way I've come to see and live in my day-to-day life, I first had to see and experience those things in meditation when I was just by myself. And then I began to, little by little, also grow in my capacity to practice and embody those things in the midst of day-to-day life. It's still an ongoing practice for me, but that's my advice to you as well. Firstly, I'm glad that you have established a meditation practice. Now you're saying how to transfer that ability into volatile moments and experiences. One thing I ask you to notice is that during volatile moments and experiences, You are so attached to personal identity. You have so become so engrossed, involved in the belief I am a person. And you, on behalf of this identity, you have started to do all other things. On behalf of this identity, you are so attached to things that you want to happen in this moment and things you don't want to happen. You're so attached to ideas of how someone else should be acting and not acting. And that's why it's volatile, because that is a huge contraction. That is a very contracted state of being, which creates a lot of suffering. So, my advice is during those moments, try to let go, try to release all attachment to what may happen, what is happening, what shouldn't happen. Just start to ease away from all of these ideas. Start to, just like in your meditation practice, in those moments, notice your very own presence. The presence which does not want anything, which is not in conflict with anything. From that, an intelligence will start to arise and work with things and direct your speech and action. Trust that. The more you taste it, the more used to it you become. But that is the way you transfer that ability from meditation into everyday life. One thing you have to care. You have to actually want to do it. And in those difficult moments, rather than just wanting to prove you're right or get your way, you have to want truth. You have to want to understand. It, the situation does not matter as much. The situation is just a messenger, a gift life has given you to practice and grow aware of yourself. So rather than just being so invested in what you can gain from this moment and potentially lose personally, you have to be more invested in the truth. Use whatever challenge has come to you to grow in the understanding of your true self. That is the way. Hope you're enjoying this so far. And I hope these questions are also bringing you clarity. So Sakshi said, thoughts are unreliable. What do thoughts want anyway? Where do we all want to get to? What's so seemingly precious there than this moment? I don't sense a question there, but good point. Thoughts are unreliable. One of the main things that we have to understand on this and observe in our practice is how unreliable, unstable thoughts are and how they are conceptual. They are not true. They project conceptual scenarios, none of which are true. They are ideas about life. They are not life. So you're right, Sakshi. What's so seemingly precious in thought? What's more precious than this moment? This moment is that in which thoughts appear, along with the rest of what we love and cherish. But what we love and cherish is a experience that comes and goes. Whereas that in which it comes and goes, that which sees its coming and going, that is life itself. That is what we have to grow more interested in, aware of. That is self inquiry meditation. So, next question is by Donna. So, Donna, you said, every time I sit to meditate or open to awareness, such incredible somatic intensity arises. It feels like my whole body is filled with incredibly painful, stinging, burning, throbbing, and pressure. It's been this way for years, steadily increasing as the capacity to be with it increases. I see no option but to keep going inward. I've done the medical route to no avail. So I recently did a specific meditation a month ago, and the already painful experience doubled in intensity. Since I haven't been able to function normally in life, I literally have to go half speed and be as silent and still as possible to keep the ego from freaking out. And yet, resting open increases the intensity. It increases but never seems to resolve. I'd love to hear if you have any experience with this and can shed some light. I know my true nature and that everything is allowed and accepted. When I rest as that, the somatic storm rages. So I understand that you're going through a difficult experience, Donna. So I will say, definitely hang in there. Just know that every experience is something that life has put in your path so that you may grow. So you must endure it gracefully and be happy to endure it. Be happy to go through the experiences that God has found fit for you, that God has chosen for you. Know that that is your path. What is happening to you is not an obstacle to your spiritual journey or your pursuit of self knowledge. It is your path. Be in total acceptance of your path. Anytime you encounter a problem that maybe isn't going away, just even a difficult experience that is persistent, even though it's excruciatingly painful at times, there's something within you that is not even resisting that. And I know that you may say, but I get that, but it's painful. Once again, then go through the experience of pain. Go through the experience of suffering the pain. Even that is an experience which comes and goes, which is not being resisted. Even that experience is being totally allowed. So I know you've already, practiced that teaching of observing without judgment. So here's where observing without judgment goes to a next level. Even when you observe without judgment and you're not resisting it, but let's say now you're saying that things are becoming too intense and then you're not even able to practice or you're just suffering. I invite you to notice and take it a step subtler that even that experience of you suffering and being so in excruciating pain and misery is an experience that comes and goes. You are not the painful experience. You are not the sensation of pain. You are not the body in which the pain is happening. You are not the mind which is resisting and fighting and making an effort to change it. The entire experience, there's no you. The experience is coming and going. So I know you're going through a difficult period right now, but I would say look at this as the blessing that God has given you to grow in the understanding of yourself. Observe impermanence in everything you're experiencing and start to see that there is no self in it either. You are that in which this comes and goes. You are that out of which this entire experience is made. The experience appears and disappears. You remain. What are you? So I invite you to explore that. And lastly, I will just say one more thing. Instead of trying to resolve your experience and resolve your problem, which I know, we all want to resolve our problems and we must work to resolve them. That's fine. But inwardly, have this attitude: God, help me surrender. Help me endure, what you have put in my path. Help me experience it gracefully, without resistance. Open the doors of self-knowledge to me. I'm your humble servant. I will continue to accept what comes. I'll continue to do my best and simply experience. And in that way, mental pride, the ego becomes weaker, and you will receive more and more grace, more and more strength. And then whenever the issue is supposed to leave your life, it will leave at that time. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful. Also, as you're watching this, if there is some one piece or something that you heard that really strikes a chord in your heart or something that you feel is of value, I want you to comment it down below. I'd love to hear from you. And it's also a good exercise where you're able to just quickly jot down what you were really connected with you, because then it also helps someone else because, we all read the comments. So it's nice to read what part connected with um, all of us. Okay. So, Olga, You said how to deeply enjoy somebody or something without attachment and fear to lose it. So, this is one of the main teachings in Buddhism. You have to observe impermanence. What do you mean without attachment? You have to just start to understand that even if you try to attach yourself to experience, you cannot hold on to it. Knowing that you cannot hold on to any experience, why try to attach? The more you start to observe that all experience is impermanent, that you cannot hold on to anything, and that even the identity on behalf of whom you are trying to hold on to things, even that identity is impermanent. Which identity is that? The person you believe yourself to be, down from the level of the body to the subtle levels of the mind. Even that identity on behalf of whom you want to attach and hold on to a particular experience, even that experience is coming and going. So knowing you cannot hold on to anything, just experience whatever is there to experience. Don't resist, don't cling. That's the way. So hearing this is not going to help. You have to truly start to now observe that there is no stability in experience and you cannot hold on to anything. Even the one that wants to hold on to experience is itself a changeful experience of which you are the witness. Stay consistent with your meditation. Without it, these words will remain mental. So, Badre, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You said, during the meditation practice, I find it easy to clearly see that I am not the mind. Good. During the day, however, it's like I'm under a spell as I automatically start identifying with the ego without even knowing, which leads to judging, fighting, resisting, which in turn leads to suffering. Is there anything to constantly do to remind ourselves of our true nature during the day? Would constantly asking the question, to whom does this thought or sensation arise, be useful, for example? Yes, it is more than two sentences. So next time you see, if you're watching this video right now and you submit your question for the next Q&A, do it in two sentences. I know it's a challenge, but you do it in two sentences. It will actually help you condense your question into a more clear statement where you will become clear about what you're struggling with. And of course, it'll be much easier for me to read. So next time, I'm not going to read out any question which is not in two sentences. That's the rule. So is there something to constantly do to remind ourselves of our true nature? What is a better reminder of your true nature than experience? Any and every experience is a reminder of your true nature, you see? Any thought you could have, any sensation you can feel, any sight you can see, any sound that is being heard, all of it is a reminder of that which sees it, of that which is aware of it. So, in one way, yeah, you can pose the question again and again, to whom does this thought or sensation arise? Because that you see how that question is designed to bring you back to the awareness of being, awareness of you, yourself, that which is aware of experience. So, you can pose that question as long as it brings you to that. But if you're just continuing to ask that question like some sort of mental exercise, like it's going to make something happen, then it will not serve you. That question is only as useful as it is in order as it is in its power to point you back to the fact of being aware. So, as I shared earlier in one of the questions we covered, the reason you are having a hard time in day-to-day life being aware of yourself, seeing that you are not the mind, is because you're too invested in me and my life and what must happen, what must not happen, what should I do, what should I not do. You're too worried about your future. You're always lost in ideas about my life and how to get what I want, notions of gain and loss. This is what you have to start relaxing away from. A mind which is deeply, let's say it a different way. When you're deeply invested in these notions, how can you ever be aware of yourself? That is a dirty mind, filthy mind. Meditation is a cleansing of this filth. We are letting go of all notions. And I'm not saying you have to be like that all day. Live your personal life normally. But when you find yourself getting too involved, when you find yourself frustrated, when you find yourself resisting, let go of it all. Let go of worrying about what happens. Let go of even conceiving of yourself as a person. Just be. Even better than posing these questions to yourself constantly, which I only recommend in a very initial stage of self inquiry. What that ultimately must evolve into is just awareness of being. Be aware that you are. Notice your awareness. For a moment, pause all your things that you're doing, and instead of being so focused in experience, become aware of that which from where you are seeing experience. Do it now. Become aware that you are. Notice that there is a certain aliveness here, a certain knowledge, knowing, which is absolutely still, absolutely silent, simply present. It doesn't want anything. It's not trying to turn life into anything. Grow in the noticing of that. It is closer than close, more intimate than even thoughts. Play around with that and see how it goes. And good thing you're doing the meditation practice. Stay consistent with that every day. So, next question is by Elain. How to stay present with family members. When I am with them, I find myself identifying with my ego a lot. What to do? You know, the advice would be the same to you. I would say in those moments, relax away from how you want them to act. Don't take so personally the things they say. And instead, like when they say things or do things that trigger you, that invoke an emotional response from within you, instead of just blaming them or resisting the outside situation and what they have done to you, start to bring your awareness inward. Start to observe within yourself the reactions that are arising because of their behavior. Your place of transformation is not focusing outside. Your opportunity for transformation is within you. Once you start to observe these things, apart from the story about why they're happening and who's making them happen, out of that will arise a deeper intelligence, which will conduct your speech and action in a more harmonious manner, in a manner that will create less suffering for you and others. So, family members can be a great teacher. They can be, they are your guru. They will bring forth from within you all that you need to see and break identification from. So don't blame them. Don't only just think of them as villains. Use these situations for practice. That is what that is what decides like a earnest seeker of truth from a seeker of truth that, for whom this is just a little pastime hobby. An earnest seeker of truth tries to live the understanding in every situation. So that's my suggestion to you. So the next question is by Risia. You said, when I meditate, I often observe my mind generating good and creative ideas. For example, for teaching my kindergarten students. How do I best deal with these seemingly useful suggestions that are actually a clever distraction mechanism of my mind? Yeah, so when you meditate, and of course, like when you just sit silently, because you're not just now thinking of nonsense, endless nonsense, and just constant, you're not just inputting constant new information from the senses. Of course, when you sit silently, you will start to have more creative ideas. Maybe even solutions to certain problems will arise. In the moment of meditation, I would advise to even let those go, because you will see that these will just keep you once again coming outward into thought. Trust me, if there's something that you must remember, it will come for you again. Don't worry. I wouldn't again and again come out of meditation to write these things down. Don't do that. Just sit. And even when something of apparent value arises in the mind, let even that go. Set it free. Trust me, it will find you once again when it's time. I always go about it with many things in life in this way, that if it's really important for me to know and understand, I can't miss it. It will come. That's what I would advise for you too. However, in a recent video, as Swati shared here, I did say that after your meditation period, right, you can just sort of sit. And in that maybe period of 10 to 30 minutes, you don't try to do anything. You're not writing, you're not reading, you're not making anything happen. You're not even necessarily practicing meditation. You're simply just sitting. During that period, when you do have something that comes to your mind that you want to note down, just quickly write down on a piece of paper. But in your meditation practice, don't touch anything. Let it all go. Okay, so let's continue. Next question is by Jaden. Jaden asked, how do I meditate when feeling a lot of anxiety? I can go deep when I'm relaxed, but when I'm stressed, my mind cannot focus. So, of course, when we are relaxed, it's much easier. It is those difficult moments which test your devotion to the practice, to the principles. So don't resist those moments. That's first and foremost. If you resist anxiety, then you keep getting more and more entangled in anxiety. As one of the main themes throughout today's Q&A, you are anxious because you are so invested in what must happen and what must not happen for Jaden. You are too invested in worry for future. You are, through that worry, trying to really control the direction of the unfoldment of your life. This is where you have to ease up. When you ease away from that, when you ease away from attachment to outcome, when you just become open to anything that may happen, anything that may not happen, how can mind grow anxious? The mind can only grow anxious if you're too invested in those desires and motives. Meditation is about becoming free of motive, free of judgment, free of anticipation. So relax away from motive, relax away from anticipation, relax away from attachment to outcome. Just be. Come to experience your true nature. Just be. Let it be enough that I am aware, nothing more. I don't need to think, I don't need to do, I don't need to worry about anything right now. Just be. And then if this practice this advice is not practicable for you, then I will just invite you to forget about what the mind is doing or saying. Instead, just worry about your attention. Bring your attention into your body sensation. Anxious thoughts are usually also accompanied by anxious feelings. So observe the anxious feelings, free from judgment about what's making them arise or what's coming up later. Just start to observe. You will never get out of anxiety and fear and whatnot by battling and struggling. You will get out of it through becoming still, simply observing. So take either of the two approaches that I shared with you. Either just be aware and know that you are aware. If that is too subtle for you, then observe body sensation. Just observe sensation. Look without description. For either of the two, you have to first take the step of relaxing out of attachment to anything, resistance to anything. So do that first. And that's not really an action you take, it's just simply you just let go. You let go of needing the future to be anything. You let go of the need to control your future. You surrender. You let go. So next question is by Danny. Danny, you asked, how important is it to not engage in pleasures of the body mind when on this pathless path? The mind makes it seem that we are regressing in spiritual progress when we indulge. How much is this the case? So, overindulgence, is always detrimental, not only to your spiritual progress, but also just to personal things. Overindulgence in anything, even overindulgence in quote unquote good things, like let's say working hard or exercising, overindulgence will always give you a negative result. In life, you have to have a balance with everything. So, this path of knowledge, of self inquiry, of meditation, is not so much about changing what you do, but rather learning to investigate into yourself, learning to discern between the changeless and the changeful. So, here, the way that I've always conducted my path, and the way that I will also invite you to conduct your path if this path resonates with you, is that experience everything. Everything you wish to desire, experience it. But don't go about it the stupid way, where you experience it and then you just keep wanting more of it or keep wanting something else. And then you just keep bouncing from one thing to another and never satisfied. Experience everything you desire, but go about it the smart way. Observe. Observe if experiencing the things you desire makes you happy. Or does it just pass away as a fleeting experience and then you're miserable again? Seek to understand this whole process of desire and fulfillment of desire or unfulfillment of desire and what it leads to. Start to become more alert of all of this. Then, no matter what experience you go through, even if you go through an experience of overindulgence in something, as long as you're looking to learn from it and grow from it, it will benefit you. So, my approach has never been to suppress anything, any desire or any action. My intention is to understand it and observe myself going through it. On the spiritual path, there are certain things that you can just let go of, right? They don't mean much, but there are certain things that maybe mean a lot to you. And even certain desires that you're like, I can't not chase that. Even if it is something like, material pleasure, material riches. So those things that you cannot let go of, I want you to pursue them. But as you pursue them, practice these teachings. Because as you pursue it and practice these teachings, your mind will be cleansed more and more and more. And you will grow in wisdom. So, on this path, you will experience pleasure and pain. Resist nothing, crave nothing, cling on to nothing. Just go through it all without identifying with any of it. It is all a passing show. You are not that. go through the experience to confirm this. That is why the experience is here. So, next question is by Rahul. Rahul, you said, how do you differentiate focus, concentration, and awareness with some example? I focus or concentrate on a thing and I'm aware of that. Focus and concentration are the same thing. They are. So, what is concentrated? It is awareness. Awareness is concentrated. Concentrated awareness we call attention. When attention is on one thing and not the other, when awareness is on one thing and not the other, that's what we call attention. Attention has its source in awareness. Awareness is a more inclusive, unlimited beingness, openness, in which all things are known simultaneously. Whereas attention is a concentrated beam of knowledge where you can focus on one thing and not the other. For example, right now, if your attention is on my face, everything else in the room that you're sitting in is like blurred out of view. If your attention is on the sound of my voice, then all the other sounds are blurred out of view. That's how attention works. The word focus and concentration mean the same thing. Next question by Pavel. Pavel, I think it's pronounced. You said, I watched your videos on YouTube, read David Hawkins, the Sedona method, and I still struggle with letting go of emotions. Is there any way to still access your letting go masterclass? If I watched your videos and still don't understand, will it no longer help me? So the letting go masterclass is no longer available. However, on my channel, you'll find a playlist on acceptance and emotional mastery. So you can watch those videos. But you see, you are involved in letting go of emotions. And that's the only thing that I don't like about that book, Letting Go, that brought into people's minds. It's not so much about letting go. And David Hawkins did not mean that it's like you have to let go of emotion. What is the practice of letting go? It is observation without judgment, plain looking, plain watching. In observation without judgment, all inclinations of trying to get rid of something dissolve. In observation without judgment, your very resistance to whatever you are experiencing dissolves. And ultimately, that experience comes and goes. That is the essence of this. You, that which is aware of the passing experience, are in no conflict with that experience. That experience does not cling to you, stick to you. This mechanism is there to help you acknowledge that fact, to realize that in your direct experience. Because right now, the way that we're used to going about it is that we feel emotions, we feel that I am that. That is me. And that's why we run away from it. We don't want to feel this way. We want to get rid of them. Learn to just observe your experience as it is without any judgment, any resistance. That is the way that will help you understand this principle. And I will say, don't expect to understand it fully before practicing it. Only by practicing it with whichever degree that you understand it right now, you come to know it more and more. That's how it was in my experience too. In the beginning, I had no idea. Only after a few weeks of practicing in it, I started getting a little inclination. It's almost like the clouds covering clarity, they begin to thin away little by little. Devote yourself to the practice of it in the hardest of times, and then this will come to you faster. So next question is by Brigitte. Brigitte, you said it's about physical pains. All my body is really painful for 2 weeks. When I meditate, my mind is silent, no more thoughts. But now my physical body, a lot of painful sensations. It catches my attention. When I'm contemplating these sensations, pains are often becoming worse. I am not the sensations. I let them come and go. But more and more I stop meditating because it is becoming too painful. What is wrong with my practice, please? I'm not sure what you mean by contemplating these sensations, but you should, if you mean by like thinking about these sensations, meaning like, oh, I'm not these sensations, I'm not these sensations, that will not help you. As I said to Pavel just now, you have to observe the sensations without any notion of wanting to get rid of them or why they're here. And, I went through a lot of this because my journey has been steered by pain because, I even came across these teachings initially because I went through a big spinal injury that lasted for many years and I went through so much pain. And I still, to some degree, go through a lot of that pain. And so pain remains a very powerful reminder of this practice to me to this day. And I will share with you that it is possible to experience pain without suffering it. This I can say from, my experience too. So that's my invitation to see how that could be. Instead of resisting pain, see that there's something within you which can look at the pain without suffering it. See that there's something within you that can even see the suffering of the pain without suffering it. I have videos on pain on my channel. Just look it up. Look up Sunny Sharma pain on YouTube. It should come up. Best of luck to you. I hope you get well soon. Okay, so next question is by Jacques. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. You said, to what level would you recommend a person trains their attention before they advance to later stages of practice? How long should you just keep practicing attention on an object, such as breath or sensation in your hands, ahead of starting to shift to awareness of awareness or a self? Everybody's different, Jacques. And my advice would be to just see what feels natural to you. I had to practice the object meditation. I used to do body sensation and breath. I had to do that for probably like 2, 3 years before self inquiry even came into my experience. But when it came into my experience, it just resonated so powerfully that I did not even question my readiness to practice it. It just felt like a natural transition. But I have come to see that it's not as seamless in many other people's experience. Some people that I've worked with and I've seen and I've talked to, self inquiry somehow comes into their experience before they even practice a different meditation. I don't know how, but it does. So, my advice is you practice what feels most natural and true. If the self inquiry pointer has come into your experience and you feel called to it, then you practice it, regardless of your ideas about how much meditation you have done or have not done in the past. Forget about all of it. Practice it, pursue it. And it's not that it will just come naturally to you, like it will, or maybe it will just be super easy. It may still be challenging, but you like feel so called to it. Use that as a sign. Practice it. Life pulls you in deeper and deeper into these teachings based on what resonates deeply with you. So that's a good way to discern where you should head, in which direction you should go. See what is your path of greatest resonance. That is what is right for you. So see which practice resonates stronger and do that one. That's my advice to everybody. And then don't be afraid to practice the other one too sometimes. When the self-inquiry pointer is inaccessible and unpracticable, feels like too subtle, then do your due diligence and practice the awareness of breath, awareness of sensation. There's a lot of people who try to practice self-inquiry and then they keep failing at it. So they're just like, all right, I'm just not going to practice anymore. No, that's not how it works. If that pointer is too subtle for you, then you have to do your work. You have to build up to it then by going back to the other practice. And that's not necessarily a lesser practice. It is less direct, but it's not lesser. Ultimately, the practice that you need most in this current phase is the greatest practice for you, regardless of where it lies on the scale of subtlety. So implement that advice. Best of luck. Okay, so you see this question way too long for me to read through right now. Maybe I'll read. So Kishore, if you wish to resubmit this question next week in 2 sentences, please Be my guest. Um, so let me read out this last paragraph, and then we'll try to see. What exactly do I do after becoming fully in sync with awareness, being disidentified from the mind, and allowing life to cause the growth as it must? Should I just let this cycle unfold because the truth is that's all I can really do? Or should I be doing something else? So you see, the essence of your question is already in your last statement. We often feel we need to give such a big backstory because, again, we're so involved in our personal stuff. When it comes to this teaching, that's why I challenge everybody. State your question in two simple statements. That's the essence of your question. That's how you simplify things. So you may think I'm just lazy that I don't want to read, but that's not fully the case. A little bit, but not fully. It helps you too. It helps you become clear on the answer to your question before I even answer it for you. So, what do I do after becoming fully in sync with awareness, being disidentified? So, you see, if you're doing this step correctly, becoming disidentified from the mind, then this question should not arise itself. People often think of it like a step, a stage after which, what is there to do? Don't think of it like that. Continue to do your work, like continue to do your spiritual work where you're staying consistent with your practice. You are continuing to observe the changefulness of the mind, continuing to observe that you are not the conceptual image that it paints out, continuing to observe the changefulness and the impermanence of all experience. Keep this discernment going. Don't think of it as a stage. Hey, like after I've fully disidentified, what next? Trust me, after that full disidentification, this question will not arise. So don't think in those terms. But what do? You just live your day to day life. Or, better said, let the day to day life be lived. On the surface, you are the person that you appear to be. You need to do things. You need to, go towards the future. Again, as I said in the previous question, use the path of resonance to see where you should head in life, personally and spiritually. Do the work that you feel you are resonating with. Work towards that if you cannot do that full time right now. Do it little by little. The more you start to follow the path of your passion, your resonance, it will open up to you more and more. And whatever personal journey that you are embarking on, use that personal journey for your spiritual growth. Continue to be more and more open rather than being so attached to particular experiences, chasing a future destination, projecting that that's where happiness lies. Just find happiness in what comes. That's one of the quotes that I have up on my wall, and I'll read it out to you. It says something along the lines of, striving and craving for pleasure and prosperity, these are your enemies. Let them all go. Hold on to nothing. With resolute dispassion, free yourself from all desire for happiness. Desire binds you, nothing else. Be still and let go of all contraries. Whatever comes, be happy, and so fulfill yourself. So you see, that is your challenge. That is how you must strive to live. Whatever is an obstacle to that, that is what you have to let go of. You have to part ways with constant conceptualization of the future, attachment to what that may bring, what it must not bring, all these ideas. Cleanse yourself from all these ideas. On the surface level, keep doing the personal stuff. Enjoy the good and the bad. Inwardly, keep allowing everything to bring you to awareness of being. Be content with whatever happens. Never be in conflict with anything. Acceptance, surrender, devotion, these are your friends. This is what continue to make you more and more established in wisdom. So again, if you use want to state your question, I think you did over here more concisely. I guess I didn't read it, but if you have any follow up on this, submit it for the next week Q&A. So next question is by Amy. Again, I'll read out a part of it. Amy said, some say you can't think your way out of depression because the thinking got you there in the first place. Some say you can't think your way towards enlightenment also. If so, why are we discussing and thinking about it? Well, actually, Amy, all of our talks here, and you can see this in all the videos that I share and all the discussions we have here, they're pointed to that within you, which is transcendent of this talking, of thinking. You through all of these talks, the aim is to point you to that, to the recognition of that within you, which sees the thinking, yet is totally silent. Once we start to awaken to that, that is the true teacher. That is the source of understanding. That's why this meditation practice, we keep emphasizing it. Because true, this is not just meant to be thought about. All of these discussions are just again and again guiding the mind inwards, motivating the mind inwards. You see? So I hope that helps. And again, if the rest of this, if you wish to, if you were asking something else, please pose the question again for next week in a concise statement. So next question is by Ruthann. How can we come back to a neutral state of just being balanced when someone or something triggers us and we are in ego and we want to react immediately rather to just be? If in that moment, Ruthann, if you have the time to just sort of like go into yourself and not react in that moment, then I would ask you to take some time to yourself and just be within yourself and observe the feelings that have arisen because of that person's behavior or speech. Forget about the other person for the moment and just observe the feeling. Again, as I said earlier in a different answer, by learning to observe, there will comes detachment, disidentification, and also the intelligence that controls your speech and action in a harmonious way. Let's say in that moment you don't have time to yourself. I would still like to remove yourself from the situation. I would still invite you to, rather than just being so focused on outside and what, like, so caught up in the trigger. When the trigger arises, you don't see it, it becomes you. So I would still invite you to, whatever degree you can, practice observing it on the sensation level, on the feeling level. And just do your best to not act from it, but always acting from your higher judgment. For example, when anger arises, because we are angry, right? I am angry. You want to say something angry. You want to say something maybe to hurt the other person. But now, instead of just succumbing to that impulse, you choose a better option. The more you choose a higher option, and that could just be also staying quiet in that moment, because any lower action is an action or speech that creates dysfunction and dysfunction and suffering for you and others. So start to observe which actions those are. A higher action is any action or speech that creates harmony, happiness. So in those moments when you are triggered and you cannot remove yourself from the situation, at the very least, start to find it within yourself, and you do have the strength. If you take this seriously, you will find the strength to not just act on your lower impulses, because that's what the ego is always motivating you to do through these emotions. Choose a higher action. And the more you choose that higher action, the more and more strength and openness, embrace you will have within you to always choose a higher action and create a space between you and feelings. So try that out. But again, also, I will say stay consistent with your meditation practice. That has to be a daily thing, twice per day, because without it, your capacity to not identify with emotions when they arise in situations like this will be little to none. The meditation practice is the foundation of our entire spiritual practice. Okay, so next question is by James. James, you said an issue I struggle with is self sabotage. My question is, what is the best practice to catch the negative emotion and release it prior to it having its negative effects on me? I tend to realize this just slightly too late, and the negative chemistry in my body is already in full swing. So you bring up a great point, and I would like everybody to hear this. This teaching is not about avoiding any experience. This teaching is not about trying to not have negative experiences or feelings. Whatever experience has come, observe it, be with it, let it be. Where is the conflict? What claims that this feeling should not be? So you see, like you say, when you get on stage to perform, maybe you were getting all these nervous feelings and whatnot. Why shouldn't you get nervous? What thinks of nervousness as an obstacle? Can you allow nervousness as openly as you allow excitement or happiness, joy? Then it will cease to be a problem. Then, even though you're like, you see, nervousness can just be a part of performing. And I felt nervousness many times, when I've maybe had to speak publicly, or maybe I'm doing like a meeting with a lot of people, like nervousness sometimes arises. But it's like, if there's no resistance to the nervousness, then it won't be a problem. Just feel it, experience it. Let nervousness also be part of that experience. Embrace it. Just this little shift will help you to stop being so pulled into the negativity of nervousness. Whereas nervousness is not negative at all. Only when you think it is, it becomes like that. And just know that you cannot do anything to prevent yourself getting involved in feelings. All you can do is, in the moment that you have discovered, hey, I'm involved and entangled in feelings, in that moment, practice. Observe without judgment. Stop resisting. Stop fighting. Just be. And keep seeing how these experiences come and go. What remains is I. Who are you? What are you that remains when all of these experiences keep coming and going? Even the experience of the body and mind, that the things you take yourself to be, is coming and going. What is that which you call I? Use such experiences for this investigation. So play around with that. So next question is by Frederic. And I'm loving these questions so far. I know it's definitely a longer video, but let me know who's still watching. Comment down below if you're still watching and you're here with us until this point. Next question is by Frederic. I often find that my attention is drawn away from awareness when I am busy working or doing captivating stuff. How to maintain my attention on awareness while being busy? I would actually recommend, again, like you cannot, as I said to James just now, you cannot control the attention from going outward. If it has gone outward, that's fine. That's not in your control. Only when you remember in that very moment, once again, become aware of yourself. Become aware that you are. Wordlessly, thoughtlessly, be. And start to notice the nature of this awareness. Even the experience of you being captivated in the busy work you're doing and whatnot is also seen by this very awareness. In this very awareness, is awareness ever missing? So you see, it's less about, you know, stressing about always keeping attention and awareness, and more about starting to realize its ever present nature, that it is always the changeless, quote unquote, background of every changeful experience. I invite you to start noticing that. So, next question, and I believe we're coming towards the end of our questions. We have a few more. By Allyson. Being in flow versus being fully aware and engaged in the moment. Are these different or similar? I would say they are the same. Being in flow and being fully aware and engaged in the moment. In both of these, you are not personal self conscious. It is just spontaneity dancing. It is just life dancing. In that moment, Allyson and Sunny are missing. They are there, but the mental construct of who I am and what I must do and achieve and protect and right, that personal mental construct is missing. It's just life happening. Freddy, you said, please explain non duality. Sometimes it sounds nihilistic to hear that there is no one here. You know, again, those messages which don't resonate with you, forget about it. It's fine. Focus on what does resonate with you. If you are exploring the message of non duality and you hear there's no one here, and then nihilism arises, for whom is nihilism so meaningful? If you're really trying to practice the teaching that is sharing with you something that maybe it feels truthful to you, then for whom is this mental reaction? What finds so much meaning in the idea that there's no meaning? What resists the idea that there's no meaning? There's something that wants meaning. There's something that wants purpose. There's something that wants some sort of validation for its own existence. That is the very culprit. That is what we call ego. So don't resist against the things maybe that you cannot understand. There's plenty of things I don't understand. And if they feel truthful, I just remain open to them. But maybe I won't practice it at that stage. I'll just continue to practice and embody what I do understand and resonate with so strongly. And then gradually I see that like that which I did not understand, it opens its gates to me naturally from within. You know, but non-duality teachings, they're just trying to share with us the natural state, the current, the way things really are. That's it. That's all non-dual teachings are trying to do. Just sharing with you how things really are, what really is. And of course, these teachings do not make sense to the mind because they do not fit in the context of our conditioned worldview. Of course, if they did, then right, like then they would make sense. They don't because they're so out of our conditioned way of seeing things. So how can you continue to try to understand something which is outside of your paradigm from within your paradigm? It doesn't make sense. Silence is the only way. So rather than giving you another conceptual interpretation or description of that which cannot be understood, I will invite you to just be. That is my path. That is what I share here. Just be. Go inward. Silence will reveal everything in its own time. Then you don't have to go on all these detours and of nihilism and so on. Okay. Okay, we answered a question by Ashmit earlier, so we'll keep going. Mark, you said, hi, Sunny, could you come at it from another direction? For example, when to use thought, when it's useful and when it's not. Here's the thing. Whenever you remember, okay, whenever you find yourself lost in thought, let it go. And other than that, when thought needs to happen, it will happen. That's it. It's as simple as that. But if you start to now try to get an explanation about when you should use thought and when you should not, right? You're going about it mentally again. Once again, as along like the previous question, you are trying to understand something that you cannot understand from the confines of your own mind. You're trying to understand it from that. Just stop. Let it go. Let go of that habit. If this teaching feels truthful to you, then really practice it instead of creating all these different little, little steps. Give yourself over to it. You feel unsafe outside of your thought because you think that thought is doing everything. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is illusion. Are you willing to test it out? If you test it out, you'll naturally see what I'm talking about. So that's my invitation to you. Whenever you remember, let go of thought. But other than that, when thinking needs to happen, it will happen naturally. Play around with that for now. And if there's anything more, you can come back and ask something else. So, next question is by Ravikant. You said, what is surrender and how does it reveal the truth and to whom? In self realization, no, if self realization is a game of losing, who is left behind to realize? So, what is surrender? Surrender is simply a letting go of resistance to what is, letting go of all inclinations of motivity, intention, desire, resistance, simply being. Personal, in a more personal language, surrender is living in trust, letting life happen rather than constantly trying to force your will. It's living by God's will. So see which definition resonates with you most. Now, how does it reveal the truth? Is because surrender is the negation of ego, which is personal will. In surrender, we can say it this way: either personal will becomes in direct alignment with God's will, or we can say it that personal will dissolves, God's will taking its place. Because it is a total negation of ego, it is a total breakdown, breaking down, demolishing of the personal structure, the belief I am the doer, belief I am this. So it just starts to reveal, it just starts to clarify things. Your misunderstandings about life, your belief systems about life start to wither away. So you say, how does it reveal the truth and to whom? Right? It doesn't really reveal the truth to anybody. It simply dissolves misunderstanding. It's not that anybody is there left to understand that or to come to like this is happening to someone. It's just that confusion is melting, revealing clarity of things the way they are, not to someone or somebody. It's just knowing of how things really are. This reflects in the mind of the individual as the capacity to talk about these things or create descriptions about how things are and whatnot. But essentially, right, this question ultimately is like you're just personifying that there is somebody at the end of the journey to whom these things can happen or not happen, to whom these things can be revealed or not revealed. And then we hear it, right? There is nobody that realizes these things. But then we create clever questions like this, but it's like, okay, then who's left to realize and all that stuff? These questions are being put forth from the wrong context. The mind wishes to personify things. Just see that, once again, we cannot understand these things trying to look through the prism of mind, through the lens of mind. And that's what surrender does. It dissolves these perspectives. It is a letting go of trying to perceive truth through the mind. So that's my just invitation to explore that. If you have any follow up, always feel free. So, next question is by Kelli. Kelli, you said, I struggle with understanding why bad things happen to children, animals, and innocent, good people in general. Are there any answers for this? Definitely not in the mind. Once again, as a person, you cannot understand these things. And neither is it important on your spiritual journey. Instead of trying to find the answers to these things, try to find the answer to who am I? What am I? Find the truth of yourself, and all these things will start making sense. For now, I will share with you all is God's will, all is God, appearing to be the victim, the perpetrator, the suffering, the punishment. It's all God, it's all life. Coming at it from the personal point of view, then we say, how could these things happen to this and this? But from a greater perspective, that perspective dissolves. Once again, I don't think these things are that important to contemplate mentally. They will just lead you down more conceptual rabbit holes, not real truth and understanding. The main source of understanding is you learning to investigate your own self, clear up your own misunderstandings, and you begin to naturally start to understand all these things that were confusing to you before. Thank you for your question. So, last two questions. This one is by Devin. Are the paths of spirituality and worldly success diverging or converging? If it's diverging, how to reconcile this? They're not diverging or converging. Ultimately, they're not two paths. It is one path, okay? And it is the spiritual path. Life is the spiritual path. And ultimately, you are seeking yourself. You are seeking God. Now, in the mind of the immature seeker, the unconscious seeker, he is chasing God in limited forms, such as pleasure, such as good experiences, money, fame, right? Wealth, relationships. They're also chasing the absence of desire. The goal of all desires is to reach a place of fulfillment, of no desire. Isn't that funny? They're all chasing true happiness, God, truth, but through very filtered means, through objects, appearances. And God has designed it in this way that when you chase Him in that way, when you seek Him in that way, you keep becoming miserable because you can never grasp Him. Everything you ever achieve goes. So the mature spiritual seeker learns to see the apparent nature of phenomena. He starts to see that no experience is of any value. It is all illusion. And he starts to see God, he or she starts to see God in a more truthful way. turning away from form and starting to contemplate or meditate on the formless. Your journey in this realm of form is there to help you discern between that changeless self, changeless reality, and changeful phenomena. So, your path in the world as a person, you'll have many ups and downs, successes and failures. If you use all of those things for your spiritual practice, then it is converging. If you want God, but you are too invested in money, relationship, this, that of the world, then it will appear to be diverging. Then it will appear to you that I can either do this or that. So, my advice is chase your material pleasures, but learn from them. Learn that they will not satisfy you and that they are of no value. They do not fulfill you. Because from that, your seeking will become more and more cleansed, more and more pure, more and more true. And you'll begin to seek the truth of yourself. You'll begin to seek God more purely with greater devotion. So don't just want things for the sake of wanting them. If you really want something, and if you really think your happiness depends on it, then yeah, go ahead and chase it. But then when you do achieve it, see, are you happy? Is that unfulfillment of yours cured? Or is it just that now you want something else or more of the same thing? Reflect on these things and grow from them. Then your personal path becomes your spiritual path. All right, last question, a short one. Julia, you said, is awareness delighted? It's not delighted nor undelighted. It's not joyful or miserable. It just is. It simply is. And in it, out of it, all these experiences of joy and misery, right, wrong, good, bad, all these dualities are born. So, awareness, or that which is aware, is transcendent of all these forms, of all these impermanent experiences. And then that was a big theme in today's talk. So that's it. I know it's been a long Q&A. Once again, let me know if you're watching till the end. But it was wonderful to do this talk. Let me come here. Yeah, it was a pleasure answering your questions. I can't wait to do this every week. Again, if you want to join the group and connect with our community, ask each other questions, and you want to submit questions for future Q&As, check the link in the description box below. Let me know your greatest takeaway from today's talk in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this and you want me to continue doing this. I would love to hear your feedback. But thank you for watching. I will see you next time.